What's up, everybody? Jay here from Tap and Turn Gaming, coming at you today with another EDH deck tech, of course. Today's deck is going to be for one of the new legends coming in Guilds of Ravnica, which at the time of me filming this video, it's currently Thursday of the week of launch. So tomorrow, on Friday, Guilds of Ravnica will be available to everybody. So today's deck, like I said, is going to be built around one of the new legends from this set, and it's going to be one of the Selesnya legends, and that's going to be Emmara, Soul of the Accord. Pretty basic, pretty simple idea for this deck, but Emmara is a 2/2 for one green and one white, so she's pretty cheap to cast for an elf cleric. When she becomes tapped, create a 1/1 white soldier creature token with lifelink. So the overall idea for this deck is pretty simple. Tap Emmara as much as you can to generate lots of tokens and create an army, and they also lifelink, so you're going to gain a little bit of life as well. There is a little bit of a slight like lifelink sub-theme to the deck. It is very small. There are things that kind of synergize with gaining life, but yeah, the overall idea of the deck is to be able to abuse her triggered ability, tap her a bunch of times, and generate lots of tokens and go wide and smash face. So that's overall the idea that I went with for the deck. You'll see lots of things in here that allow you to tap creatures down, like spells with Convoke, which allow you to tap creatures to pay for the cost of the spell. We've got some vehicles in the deck where you can turn those vehicles into creatures by tapping other creatures, with X amount of power to the crew cost of the vehicle to turn it into a creature, so that synergizes pretty well. There's a couple of other things that synergize with tapping and untapping, which is kind of the overall, basis of the deck that I tried to go with here. Just abuse that triggered ability and create an army is more or less what you want to be doing with this deck. But that's, in a nutshell, what Emmara does. And I like to call this deck Emmara, Soul of the Tapping, because, that's what you want to be doing, is you want to be tapping her down and untapping her and tapping her again and, doing all the things. So, let's get into the deck. Wow, I can't really speak right now. Let's get into the deck, shall we? So we'll take a look at the creatures first, as we always do, because I'm a creature-centric kind of player, and I like to slam creatures down on the board and smash face. So first up we have Riss the Redeemed. He's a 1/1 for one hybrid green or white for a legendary elf warrior. You can pay 2 in a green-white hybrid and tap him to create a 1/1 green and white elf warrior creature token. Or you can pay 4 and 2 green-white hybrid and tap him. For each creature token you control, put a token into play that's a copy of that creature. So he generates tokens, then he doubles the amount of tokens that you currently have on the board. So pretty nice tool to have. If you generate lots of little 1/1 lifelinking soldiers with Emmara, you can use Riss to double that amount. And then if you have things like Doubling Season or Anointed Procession, which we do happen to have in the deck, you're going to have a good day. Next we have Soul Warden, a 1/1 for one white mana. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield, you gain 1 life. So a little bit of life gain there. And it's any creature. It doesn't have to be our creature. Then we have Bramble Snap, a 1/1 for 2 with Trample. Tap an untapped creature you control. He gets +1/+1 until end of turn. So obviously that synergizes pretty well with our general. Then we have Seeker of Skybreak, a 2/1 for 2 where it has tap to untap target creature. So again, synergizes pretty well with our general. Selesnya Evangel, a 1/2 for a green and a white. Pay 1, tap it. Tap an untapped creature you control, put a 1/1 green sapling creature token onto the battlefield. So you're going to notice a lot of things like that where, it says, tap an untapped creature you control and things of that nature. So, those things just synergize really, really well with Emmara. So this particular creature, if you use Emmara to activate this ability, you pay 1, tap it, and then tap Emmara. You're going to generate a 1/1 sapling off of this, and then a 1/1 soldier with lifelink off of Emmara. So, obviously, pretty nice synergy there. Then we have Eternal Witness. Everybody knows what that does. Lets you take a card back from your graveyard to your hand. We have one of the new Guilds of Ravnica cards here, Ledev Champion, a 2/2 for 1, a green and a white. Whenever it attacks, you may tap any number of untapped creatures you control. And then this gets +1/+1 until end of turn for each creature tapped this way. So again, more tapping synergies. And also, you can pay 3, a green and a white to create a 1/1 white soldier creature token with lifelink. A little bit expensive, but you know, if you have a bunch of extra mana lying around, it's a nice mana sink to create some bodies for you. Then we have Mentor of the Meek, 2/2 for 3. Whenever another creature with power 2 or less enters the battlefield under our control, we can pay 1 if we do draw a card. So some nice card draw synergy there, because all the tokens that we're going to be generating are going to be 1/1s, which will trigger this if we have that 1 mana to pay. Then we have Citanal Hierophants, 3/2 for 4. Gives all your other creatures the ability to tap to add green to your mana pool, so it turns all of your creatures into mana dorks, including your general. So again, just another way to be able to tap her for something to create those tokens. Then we have Nylea, God of the Hunt, a 6/6 for 4 with Indestructible. It's not a creature unless your devotion to green is 5 or greater. Other creatures you control have Trample, and you can pay 3 and a green to give a target creature +2/+2 until end of turn. Mainly we have this in there for the Trample. Once we get a bunch of creatures down on the board, we have a couple of ways to make them bigger. I didn't want to go with too many Anthem effects because that kind of counteracts our Mentor of the Meek a little bit if we happen to have some Anthem effects down. That kind of shuts off our Mentor of the Meek, which is going to allow us to draw extra cards. So this is really in there for the Trample. It is nice to be able to pump a creature +2/+2 as well. But it's mainly in there for the Trample once we, get our army to the point where we feel like we can alpha strike somebody and we have ways to pump our team. It's nice to have that Trample to push some extra damage across. Then we have Shalai, Voice of Plenty, a 3/4 for 4 with flying. Gives you Planeswalkers you control and other creatures you control hexproof. So basically it protects you and your entire board. As far as creatures and planeswalkers go, they have to remove this before they can remove any of your other creatures, unless they're using like a board wipe or something. But it's pretty nice, being able to give your stuff hexproof, and you can pay 4 and 2 green to put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. So one of the ways that we have to make our team bigger when we're ready to try to push across all that damage. Then we have Tristana, Selesnia's Voice, a 2/5 for 4 via 2 green and 2 white. Whenever another creature enters the battlefield under our control, we gain life equal to its toughness, and then we can pay 1, a green and a white, and tap it to populate, which allows us to put a token onto the battlefield that's a copy of a creature token we control. So it allows us to just generate like an extra soldier or an extra sapperling or whatever we happen to have on the board. But mainly it's in there for the life gain. Then we have Knight Captain of Eos, which synergizes very, very well with our general. He's a 2/2 for 5. When he comes in, put 2 1/1 white soldier creature tokens onto the board, and then we can pay 1 white and sacrifice a soldier. And note that the tokens that Emmara creates are soldiers, so this is why this synergizes really well with her. Sacrifice a soldier, prevent all combat damage that would be dealt this turn. So that's pretty nice, being able to fog every turn, and the fact that the tokens that Emmara creates are soldiers means that, you'll more than likely have more than just the 2 soldiers that this guy brings with him to be able to constantly prevent all combat damage. So as long as you can keep this guy on the board and keep generating tokens with Emmara, you can just nullify your opponent's combat phases for as long as you have these things out on the board. Then we have Resplendent Mentor, a 2/2 for 5. Gives all your white creatures the ability to tap to gain 1 life. So, obviously that lets Emmara tap to gain us a life. It lets all of our tokens that she creates tap to gain us 1 life. So it's just there to, synergize with Emmara, but being able to give all your tokens the ability to gain you some life too is really nice. Seedborn Muse, Lets us untap all permanents we control during each other player's untap step, which is pretty nice. So if we, tap Emmara down on our turn to create some tokens, and then it goes to our opponent's turn, and then she untaps because of this and all of our other stuff, we can keep abusing that triggered ability even when it's not our turn. Then we have Venerated Loxodon, a 4/4 for 5 with Convoke. So you'll see a lot of things in the deck with Convoke because it allows you to tap creatures down to aid in the cost of this card. Whenever he enters the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature that convoked it. So anything that you tap down to towards the cost of this, those creatures that you tap will get bigger. So, pretty nice. Can make your tokens a little bit bigger, can make your general bigger. It's all around a pretty nice synergistic card for the deck. And then we're getting into the top end of our curve on the creatures here. Not much synergy to go with the general on these, but they're kind of more or less like finishers for the deck. So we have Dragon Lord Dramoka, a 5/7 for 6. Can't be countered, flying, lifelink. Your opponents can't cast spells during your turn. So, that'll nullify your opponents trying to remove stuff on your turn, counter things that you play, things of that nature. And this itself can't be countered, so that's always nice, being able to just slam this down on the board and not have it be countered. Obviously, your opponents can remove it once it hits the board because it doesn't have hexproof. But if you have something like Shalai out on the board, it'll protect it, momentarily, or at least for a little while until somebody wants to remove this. But it's, just a nice big fat body with flying and lifelink, more or less, that, kind of protects your turn. So we can use it as a means to push some damage across in the air, and, if we're not having luck on the ground. Speaking of not having luck on the ground, we have Thunderfoot Baloth, a 5/5 for 6 that'll definitely help you get damage across on the ground. It itself has Trample, and then it has Lieutenant, so as long as you control your commander, Thunderfoot Baloth gets +2/+2, and other creatures you control get +2/+2 and have Trample. So pumping your team and giving it Trample will definitely aid you on the ground as far as pushing damage across. Then we have Emmara Shepherd, a 4/4 for 7 with flying with landfall. So whenever you play a land, you can return target non-land permanent card from your graveyard to your hand. If the land that you put into play is at Plains, you can return that permanent to the battlefield instead. So, with this being just a 2-color deck, green and white, it's, not going to be uncommon for us to slam a Plains down on the board. We have, I believe, 7 basic Plains in the deck, and then we have a couple of dual lands that are like, forest Plains, so that kind of adds to that count of that. So, not so much a finisher, but more of a means of recursion for us. I mean, even if we don't slam a Plains down on the board to get the thing back directly onto the board, we at least get it back to our hand so that we can recast it later. Then lastly, the finisher of all finishers, Craterhoof Behemoth, a 5/5 for 8 with haste. When he enters the battlefield, creatures you control gain trample and get +X/+X until end of turn, where X is the number of creatures you control. So if you're playing a green deck that wants to go wide and generate lots of tokens, you're probably playing this card. It is rather expensive at about $22, but it's worth it, trust me. I've won many games with this card. It's a very, very menacing card, and if it resolves and you have lots of dudes on the board, you're probably killing somebody at the table, if not more than one person at the table. So that's the creature base of the deck. Next up, we'll take a look at our artifacts, because we have 12 of them. We have quite a few. So first we have Paradise Mantle. It's an equipment that costs 0 to play and 1 to equip. Equipped creature has tap, add 1 mana of any color. So, obviously synergizes really well with our general. Ideally, we want to be equipping this to our general to allow her to be able to tap to, add that 1 mana and generate us a token off the triggered ability. Springleaf Drum. 1-cost artifact, tap it, and an untapped creature you control, add 1 mana of any color. So just another way to synergize with the general, ramp our mana a little bit, and generate us a token. Selesnya Signet, just a nice little mana rock for us. You'll notice that I don't play Sol Ring in this deck. I know, blasphemy. I really didn't think like I needed it. You know, we've got plenty of ways to ramp our mana. You know, with like this and the Springleaf Drum and Paradise Mantle, we got the Citanal Hierophants that gives all of our creatures the ability to tap to add green. And we've got some other ways to ramp our mana as well. So I felt like Sol Ring wasn't really necessary. Moving on, we got Swiftfoot Boots. An equipment, 2 to play and 1 to equip. Equipped creature has hexproof and haste, just a way to protect our general so she sticks on the board and she can generate us lots of tokens. Thornbite Staff, 2-cost equipment, costs 4 to equip, a little bit expensive to equip, but it's pretty worth it. The equipped creature has pay 2 and tap it, so obviously if we put this on our general, it's going to generate us a token when we tap her. Then this creature deals 1 damage to target creature or player, and whenever a creature is put into a graveyard from play, untap this creature. So if your opponents have a token strategy as well, or maybe they have lots of 1/1s or 1 toughness guys on the board, you can use this to chain gun down their 1 toughness guys, you know, as long as you've got the 2 mana to pay every time. And if we have this equipped onto Emmara, we pay 2, tap it, generate the token, we shoot something for 1, then it dies, we untap her, we do it again, rinse and repeat. So obviously a nice little synergistic card for our general. And we have Cultivators Caravan. It's a artifact vehicle. 3 to play. It's a 5/5 when it is a creature. Can tap to add 1 mana of any color to our mana pool. So at its worst, it's a Darksteel Ingot, I guess minus the indestructible, but you know what I mean. And then it has Crew 3, so tap any number of creatures you control with total power 3 or more, and then this turns it into an artifact creature until end of turn. So the vehicles synergize pretty well with Emmara. So we tap her to crew this. That adds 2 to the crew cost. Well, we just tapped her, so now we get a 1/1 token, and then we can tap that token to get the final crew point on this to turn it into a 5/5. So just, you know, more means for us to tap our general and generate those tokens. Same thing here with Mobile Garrison, although this is a little bit better. It's a 3-cost vehicle. It's a 3/4 when it's a creature. Whenever it attacks, untap another target artifact or creature you control, and it has crew 2, so we can use just Emmara to crew this. And it is worth noting, I did look into this to make sure that it actually worked. But when you crew something, so let's say for instance you use Emmara to crew Mobile Garrison, you turn it into a 3/4 creature. You attack with it. Now this triggers, you can untap another target artifact or creature. We untap Emmara. Well, we can tap her again to crew this again, even though it's already a creature. You can crew a vehicle that's already turned into a creature. Under normal circumstances, you probably wouldn't want to do that. But with Emmara, we can, you know, crew the vehicle again if we want just another way to tap her again to generate more tokens. Puppet Strings, 3-cost artifact, pay 2, tap it. You may tap or untap target creature. Don't really need to explain why we have that in the deck. Same here with Staff of Domination, 3-cost artifact with lots of abilities on it. You know, the ones that we really care about is paying 1 to untap the staff, and then paying 3 and tapping it to untap target creature. So obviously, you know, if we tap Emmara down with something else, you know, we can pay 3, tap this to untap her, and then pay 1 to untap this. And as long as we've got the mana to keep, you know, chucking into this, we can generate lots of tokens, you know, with Emmara. Then we have Conqueror's Galleon, a 4-cost vehicle. It's a 2/10 when it's a creature with crew 4. Whenever it attacks, exile it at the end of combat, then return it to the battlefield transformed under your control. We like it when it's transformed because it turns into Conqueror's Foothold. It becomes a land that taps for a colorless, or pay 2, tap it, draw a card, then discard a card, or pay 4, tap it to draw a card, or pay 6 and tap it to return target card from your graveyard to your hand. So, ways to draw cards and recur things that are in the graveyard. So that's why we really like it. But, getting it into this phase where it's a land, we can use Emmara to great effect with that because it's a vehicle. Then we have Weatherlight, another vehicle, 4 cost. It's a 4/5 flyer when it's a creature. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player, look at the top 5 cards of your library. You may reveal a historic card from among them and put it into your hand. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. And as far as historic cards, those are artifacts, legendaries, and sagas. So, we've got 12 artifacts. We've got a few Planeswalkers, which count as legendaries because all Planeswalkers have been errated to be legendary. So this can fetch Planeswalkers, and I believe we run 1 Saga in the deck in our enchantments, so there's a fair amount of things that this can hit for us. And then lastly, Sky Sovereign Console Flagship, excuse me, a 5-cost vehicle. It's a 6/5 flyer when it is a creature, but when it enters the battlefield or attacks, deals 3 damage to target creature or planeswalker an opponent controls with crew 3. So we can crew this just with Emmara herself with the token that she generates when we tap her to crew this, and then we can lightning bolt things as this attack. So that's just ways to get other opposing creatures off of the board or planeswalkers. So, those are the artifacts. Next up, we'll take a look at the enchantments, and then we'll go over the spells and planeswalkers after that. So, enchantments, we have Nature's Chosen, 1 cost, Aura, enchant creature. It's a very old card, so it doesn't say Aura on it, but that's what it is. You can play this on a creature you control, obviously, because it's an Aura. You can pay 0 to untap enchanted creature. Use this ability only during your turn and only once each turn. And then pay 0 to tap enchanted creature to untap target artifact, creature, or land. Use this ability only if the enchanted creature is white and only once each turn. So obviously a very nice aura to play on Emmara for reasons. We can tap her and untap her and generate tokens and all those good things that we want to do in the deck. Next up we have Reconnaissance. 1 white mana for an enchantment, pay 0, remove target attacking creature you control from combat, and untap it. So we can use Emmara to attack in just to get that trigger to generate the token, and then we can remove her from combat if, we see something across the board that's probably going to kill her if it blocks her. So we can use this just as another means to tap and untap her. And we have Cryptolith Rite. 2 costs, green enchantment. Creatures you control have tap, add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. Pretty self-explanatory there. It's going to ramp us a little bit, or a lot, if we have a lot of creatures on the board. But, just another means to tap our general down to generate those tokens. Then we have Dawn of Hope, a 2-cost white enchantment. Whenever you gain life, you may pay 2 generic if you do draw a card, and we can pay 3 and a white. Create a 1/1 white soldier creature token with lifelink. So all the tokens that we generate from our general have lifelink. We have a couple of other ways in the deck to gain life, so whenever we do, we can pay that 2 generic to draw our card. And it's also a mana sink to create us tokens. Next up we have Earthcraft, the single most expensive card in the deck at about $65. It's a card from Tempest, so it is quite an old card. Could potentially be something, not easy to acquire. It is something that I really, really want for the deck, though, because it just synergizes so well with the deck. Anyway, it's a 2-cost green enchantment, tap and untap creature you control to untap target basic land. So, just works really well with Emmara. We tap her down to, untap a basic land, and that's going to generate us a token, and then if we have something to untap her, we can use the land that we just untapped to pay towards something else. It works really well with the deck overall. I almost didn't include it because of the price point, but I felt like, I really should look into acquiring this card for the deck because it will just synergize so well. Then we have Song of Freyalise. Our 1 saga that we run, it costs 1 and a green for an enchantment. Until your next turn, creatures you control gain tap, add 1 mana of any color. So once you play this, it triggers, you know, the first mode of it, and then during your as the saga enters and after your draw step. Okay, so after you draw your first card for the turn during your draw phase, then this goes into mode 2, and then on your next turn after you draw, goes into mode 3, which is put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. Those creatures gain vigilance, trample, and indestructible. So, you know, the first 2 modes let us tap things down to ramp our mana, and then the last one makes all of our dudes bigger and makes them pretty menacing by giving them vigilance, trample, and indestructible. So nothing to scoff at there. Next we have Aura Shards, a 3-cost green and white enchantment. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under your control, you may destroy target artifact or enchantment. Relatively expensive card at $18 for an uncommon. But, you know, that price is pretty warranted for what this card does, especially if you're generating lots of tokens. Just whenever a creature enters the battlefield, not a non-token creature, any creature enters the battlefield under your control. So, obviously, we're going to be generating lots of tokens in this deck so we can blow up all of the things. Then we have Anointed Procession, a 4-cost white enchantment. Essentially doubles the amount of tokens that we create. So if an effect would create 1 or more tokens under your control, it creates twice that many. So if we generate a token with Emmara, instead of 1, we're going to get 2. You know, if we have something that'll generate us 3 tokens at once, this will generate 6 more. Not 6 more, it'll generate 3 more, giving us a total of 6, rather. So it just doubles all of our creature tokens. We have Conclave Tribunal, a nice little removal enchantment with Convoke. So when it enters the battlefield, exile target non-land permanent and opponent controls until this leaves the battlefield. So essentially it's a little bit more expensive Oblivion Ring, except you can Convoke it, so you can tap creatures down to lower the cost of it. Obviously synergizes pretty well. Then we have Glare of Sub Duel, probably one of the more potent cards in the deck. Allows you to tap an untapped creature you control to tap target artifact or creature. So if you've got lots of bodies on the on your side of the board, and your opponent goes to swing in and declare their combat step, just tap all their stuff down. If you've got enough stuff on your side to tap their stuff down, they just can't attack if their creatures are tapped. So pretty powerful card. Cathar's Crusade, speaking of powerful cards, whenever a creature enters the battlefield under our control, we put a +1/+1 counter on each creature we control. So pretty self-explanatory there. One of the ways where when we're ready to Alpha Strike or push across a lot of damage, you know, we can slam this down, start making things bigger, and then, you know, it gets pretty scary. It does involve a lot of math, or at least lots of dice, if you have lots of creatures on the board to keep track of how big things are, but obviously a pretty powerful card to play in a token-based strategy. Then we have Divine Visitation, another new card from Guilds of Ravnica, costs 5 via 3 and 2 white. If 1 or more creature tokens would be created under your control, that many 4/4 white angel creature tokens with flying and vigilance are created instead. So if we have this on the board and we start making tokens with Emmara, those 1/1 life-linking soldiers turn into 4/4 flying angels with vigilance. So pretty self-explanatory there, I think. Then we have Doubling Season. Again, just another way for us to double the amount of tokens that we generate, but also it doubles the amount of counters that get placed on things as well on our side of the board. So if we have Cathar's Crusade out and this, we play a creature, we're going to generate 2 creatures, and then because we generated 2 creatures, you know, Cathar's Crusade is going to trigger, and you can see how bonkers it's going to get from there. And then Mirari's Wake, finally, another Anthem effect for us that also doubles the amount of mana that we generate from lands that we tap. So, pretty nice to have as well. So those are the enchantments. Next up, we'll take a look at our instants and sorceries. We'll look at the sorceries first. Pretty much just ramp and a couple of board wipes here. So we have Cultivate, Kadama's Reach, Sky Shroud Claim, Nissa's Expedition, which has Convoke, so obviously nice little synergy there. Then we have Austere Command and Hour of Reckoning, so those are our two sweepers for us. Austere Command gives us access to blowing up all artifacts or all enchantments or all creatures with cost 3 or less or all creatures with cost 4 or greater, and we can choose 2 of those when we cast this. So it gives you a nice selection. And then Hour of Reckoning, just meant for this deck. It has Convoke, so we can use all of our little tokens to tap down to lower the cost of this, and it destroys all non-token creatures. So all of our tokens that we generate stick around. And obviously, our mana ramp spells, we've got 4 of them there, just to, rip out some basics out of our deck. Well, with Sky Shroud Claim, we can search for 2 forest cards, so we can search for, like, Temple Garden or anything else that has the forest subtype. Next, we'll look at the instants. We have 8 of them. Enlightened Tutor lets us search for an artifact or enchantment card and reveal it and then put it on top of our library. So with the amount of artifacts and enchantments that we play in this deck, with a total of 26 altogether, I felt like it was pretty nice to have some sort of tutor effect to rip out one of those things out of our deck if we really need something in particular. Path to Exile, just some spot removal. Heroic Intervention gives our permanents hexproof and indestructible until end of turn at instant speed. So if someone goes to board wipe us, we can play this in response and laugh at them. We have Beast Within, another spot removal card. Destroys any permanent, and then its controller gets a 3/3 green beast creature token. Whoop-de-ding, big deal. I'll gladly give my opponent a 3/3 green beast that does nothing else in trade of destroying their Planeswalker or destroying, something on their side of the board that's given me a problem. Chord of Calling lets us rip a creature out of our deck at instant speed, and it has Convoke. So we can tap our creatures down to lower the cost of this. Lets us search our library for a creature card with converted mana cost X or less and put it onto the battlefield. So if we really need to get that Crater Hoof Behemoth out of our deck that we haven't drawn into yet, we can Chord of Calling it into play. Devouring Light, another spot removal card for us with Convoke, so just nice synergy there. This lets us exile a attacking or blocking creature. One of the mythic cards from Guilds of Ravnica, March of the Multitudes, 2 white and a green and X, and it also has Convoke. Create X 1/1 white soldier creature tokens with lifelink, so pretty powerful card there. If we Convoke this and tap a whole bunch of stuff down and create a whole bunch of tokens, we just went really wide. And then if we have things like Anointed Procession and Doubling Season, things are going to get really ugly really fast for our opponent. Then lastly, Return to Dust, some spot removal for artifacts and enchantments. Lets us exile 1, and then if we cast this during our main phase, we can exile 1 other artifact or enchantment. Alright, and lastly, before we look at the land base, we get 3 Planeswalkers. We've got Garruk, Wildspeaker. He can untap 2 target lands or create a 3/3 green beast creature or give our creatures overrun, so +3/+3 and trample. Then we have Elspeth Tyrell. We can gain 1 life for each creature we control, or put 3 1/1 white soldier creature tokens onto the battlefield, so more token generation for us. Or destroy all other permanents except for lands and tokens. And then another version of Elspeth here, Elspeth Sun's Champion. We can put 3 1/1 white soldier creature tokens onto the battlefield, or destroy all creatures with power 4 or greater, or we get an emblem with creatures we control get +2/+2 and have flying. So mainly just ways to make our board a little bit wider with these 3 Planeswalkers, or make them big and be able to swing in for a lot of damage, or gain a little bit of life and wipe everything else off the board except it and the tokens that we've generated. So I feel like these 3 Planeswalkers are pretty synergistic for the deck, and they fit right in. Alright, lastly, we'll take a look at the mana base. Pretty simple with it being just a 2-color deck. So we've got Blossoming Sands, Bountiful Promenade, one of the newer dual lands from Battle Bond. if you're playing a multiplayer game with at least, one other person, or I'm sorry, with at least two other people, I should say. So this enters the battlefield tapped unless you have two or more opponents. So if you're playing at least a 3-player commander game, this will always enter the battlefield untapped. We have Brushland, Canopy Vista, Command Tower, Emmara the Sky Ruin, which lets us resurrect some creatures if we have 7 or more planes on the board on our upkeep, 7 basic forests, Fortified Village, Gavany Township, which is a nice little utility land that can make our entire board bigger, Grey Pelt Refuge, Holdout Settlement, which synergizes pretty well, lets us tap it and an untapped creature we control to add 1 mana of any color, so ideally we'd use this with our general. Mosswort Bridge, which lets us hide away a card, and then we can cast that card without paying its cost if our creatures we control have total power 10 or greater, which will probably easily meet that with the amount of tokens we're going to generate. Opal Palace lets us basically, play our commander and then make it a little bit bigger for the amount of times it's been cast from the command zone. So we can pay 1 and tap this, add 1 mana of any color in our commander's color identity, and then if we use that to cast our general, if we've cast her 3 times from the command zone already, she'll come in with 3+1/+1 counters. So it's pretty nice. 7 basic planes, Salt-Crusted Steppe, Scattered Groves, Selesnya Guildgate, Selesnya Sanctuary, Stirring Wildwood, nice little man land there, Sunpetal Grove, Survivor's Encampment, which is basically the same exact thing as Holdout Settlement, Temple Garden, Temple of Plenty, and Windbrisk Heights, another little hideaway land that triggers if we attack with at least 3 or more creatures in a turn. So, that about wraps it up, guys. That's my Emmara, Soul of the Accord, or as I like to call it, Emmara, Soul of the Tapping, for EDH/Commander. So let me know what you guys think down in the comment section down below of my particular deck. If you think that there are any cards that I should consider adding in, or cards that I could consider cutting for maybe something else, or just give me your overall thoughts on the deck. I think it'll be pretty fun to play. If you like to generate lots of tokens and go wide and make those tokens bigger and push across lots of damage and gain a little bit of life while you're doing it, I feel like this is the deck for you. It's and the general, is very, very cheap at only 2 mana. So, that commander tax, if she keeps getting, killed off the board, isn't going to be as bad as it would be with, a general that costs like 5, 6, 7 mana. So, that's always a nice little plus as well to, have a general with such a low mana cost with such a potent ability. But yeah, that about wraps it up, guys. So do all of the YouTube things for us, crush that thumbs up button. Leave us some comments, and share the video with your friends if you're into EDH and Commander. Share it across your social media platforms and things of that nature. The more reach that we get from you guys sharing our videos and stuff like that, 1, we really do appreciate that very, very much, and 2, it just gets more people into our channel and viewing our videos, and just makes Derek and I very, very happy people. So yeah, do all the YouTube things and such, and if you're not already subscribed to our channel, Tap and Turn Gaming, go on and consider crushing that subscribe button. Derek and I really would appreciate it. Also, if you'd like to get notified each and every time we upload a brand new video here on Tap and Turn Gaming, you can go ahead and click that little bell icon next to the subscription button, and then you'll get notifications each and every time we upload a brand new video. I know we were a little late this week with this video. I had some chaotic things happen at the house here for me. Not going to go into too much detail about it, but stuff kind of came up, things that needed to be dealt with right away, so it made the video come out a little bit later than we would have liked it, but here it is nonetheless. So again, I hope you enjoyed this video. Do all those YouTube things, like, comment, subscribe, share, and we will catch you later in the next video. This has been Jay with Tap and Turn Gaming, and I'll catch you all later.